Hey folks, welcome back. It's time for another edition of Cuboid Example Solves. This time we're moving up a gear. So we've been doing the 3x3x puzzles. Hopefully you've got a good idea how to do those. I've shown you the 3x3x2, 3x3x4, and 3x3x5. From there you're pretty much good. You can do any other higher order ones that you want. But now we're going to move on to 4x4x puzzles. And I've got two here to show you today. We've got the WitEden 4x4x2, which is in here, and the IE 4x4x3 over here on the right. As you will see, I have very different impressions of these two puzzles. The quality is, there's a huge gulf in quality, shall we say, between the two of them. I'm going to start with the 4x4x2, and you will see I'm going to suffer quite a bit with the puzzle itself during this solve. The actual solve is not difficult. Again, we're going to be using the basic techniques, the sort of easy method of 3x3x2 solving that I've shown you before. And we're just going to extend it a bit. So obviously with a 4x4x we now have centers that we need to deal with, as on a 4x4. So as you can see, we now have 4 center pieces and we have 2 edge pieces. So as with a 4x4x4 cube, we're going to have to do some reduction to solve this thing. But with this one, it's quite easy. You basically reduce it to a 3x3x2, and from there it's all pretty standard. But especially solving the edges is a little bit something to get used to at first, I suppose. Now you'll be fooled when you initially get this puzzle because the 4x4 faces seem to turn pretty well. But once we get into dealing with slices and stuff, you'll see it gets pretty rancid pretty quickly. So let me outline the solve for you. I'm not going to do a big long review of each puzzle this time because you've seen these in previous videos and probably just want me to get down to business. But I will say, if you haven't seen my reviews of the various cuboids, go and check out those videos. But also, I'll just tell you, 4x4x2, bad. 4x4x3, good. Buy this and don't buy this. If you really want a 4x4x2, which I did to kind of have that completionist aspect to my collection, then go ahead, but just be aware that it might be truly awful. Anyway, so to outline the solve, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to solve the white and yellow centers here. Then I'm going to reduce the edges. Because we don't have actually any center pieces at all along the side of the puzzle here, we can kind of skip that whole step that you would normally do with a 4x4, or in fact with a 4x4x3, as you'll see. And we'll just get right into doing the edge pairing. Once we do the edge pairing, we have a reduced 3x3x2, and we just solve the whole thing as a 3x3x2 by turning only the outer layers. Okay, so with all that done, let's get started. So first of all, I'm just going to pair up these 2 white centers here, get these into position so that I can just slide them in like so. And that's already done. So any kind of standard techniques you would use to solve centers on a 4x4, you can of course use with this puzzle. Very, very easy. So now let's think about the edges. So what I need to do here, what I tend to do is I keep the white face on the bottom just to give me kind of orientation with my solving. And then what I do is I'll bring 1/2 of the edge pair that I want to make into the top back edge right here. And the one that needs to go with is on the front bottom. So you can see I'm looking at the yellow and red here and the yellow and red here. Those are my kind of targets. And then what I do is just slide one down so that they're paired up and put it over onto one side of the puzzle. Doesn't matter which side. Then I can just put the white pair back to where it's supposed to be. And since I always keep white on the bottom, I don't kind of confuse myself. Now let's see. We've got a blue and white here. Do we have a blue and white? Yes, we do. So I'll put this in the bottom position. And then I'll put the other blue and white over here. And I'll do the same thing again. Oh, we got a pop. Oh, we got a huge pop. Oh, great. Oh, boy. All right, so hopefully this doesn't cause havoc with my solving. This has actually never fully popped before, so I guess that's an extra bonus for those of you who decided to tune in. Will that go in like this? No. Okay, maybe... Okay, I guess I'll just try and mirror what it's looking like on the left. Does that seem okay? I guess so. And then, oh gosh, I think, okay, the blue and white is over here, which means it was going to go here. So this blue and white piece must have been here, I think. How does that actually go in? Is the other question. This is quite scary to try and do while I'm talking here. Oh, no, that seems okay. All right. And orange and yellow must go here. The orange and, or the yellow and the white will always be obviously facing up or down because of the way the puzzle works. Come on. Oh. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you have to be careful with this puzzle because things like that can happen. All right, so what was I doing? Yeah, this should be over here. So let's do that. And we were going to pair the blue and white. So I'll very carefully bring that in. Once again, swap that over to the right and place the white pair on the bottom. There we go. Okay, now we have an orange and white here and an orange and white over here. So once again, we can do the same technique. Yeah. Okay, so we bring that orange in, make our pair, bring that in like that, bring out the unsolved pair, and replace the white on the bottom. Okay, so now we have 4 solved edge pairs on either side of the puzzle, 1 solved pair here, and then we have 3 unsolved pairs. Now there's no doubt some kind of fancy ways to go about doing these. What I do, once again, I have the pair that I want to match, which is here, orange and yellow and orange and yellow. Okay, then I have another unsolved pair that I don't actually need to solve at the moment. So what I'm going to do is place that in here, okay, and bring out a solved pair. So I've got 2 solved pairs and 2 unsolved ones. And what tends to happen, so we bring that in, we've solved that, swap in the unsolved pair again, and there we go. Everything is solved. How good is that? So with that simple technique, you should be able to get all your edge pairs done without getting lost on the puzzle, because you're only ever matching a pair down on the bottom front. You always know where the other half of the pair needs to be. And once you get down to 3 unsolved pairs, just swap one out that you don't need for a solved pair, solve the pair that you have left, and then when you bring the unsolved pair back in and complete your reset of the white center pair down to the bottom, you'll find that everything is solved. So, easy enough. So now what do we need to do? Well, we're at a state of having a 3x3x2, so we start at the beginning of the 3x3x2 solve, and we need to make our white cross on the bottom of the puzzle. So we have a red in place, we have a blue here. Now once again, this puzzle does conform to the standard color scheme. So with the white on the bottom, we should go orange, blue, red, and green. So green is actually the only one that we're missing. So we can just put that in like so. And now we'll place the corners in using the standard method. Let's see, we've got red and blue, which needs to go here. So we just go R, U, like this. There we go. Now we have one corner in. Blue and orange needs to go here. So R2, U, R2, U prime, R2. Oh, it's such a horrible puzzle, this one. All right, now we have green and red, which goes here. R2, U, R2, U prime, R2. And one last corner to do on the bottom layer, and then we're done. R2, U, R2, U prime, R2. There we go. Okay, so bottom layer is finished. Now, what do we have on the top? We have no headlights. Oh boy. So, in case this wasn't clear from my other videos, if you don't have headlights on the top, in other words, 2 correctly placed corners with the same color facing out, you can do the algorithm for when you do have headlights from any orientation to generate two headlights, and then do the algorithm again, and you'll solve the corners. So in case you don't remember, the algorithm goes like this: R2U, R2U prime, R2U prime D, R2U prime, RU, R2. Sorry, I think I said an R in there, but obviously it's always R2 on these puzzles. Okie dokie, so now we have headlights, and we do the same thing again. R2U, R2, U prime, R2U prime D, R2U prime, R2U, R2. There we go. Now we have one side on the top is complete, and we have three edges that are out. So once again, we'll do the easy method. Okay, so I can swap. Let's see what we need to do. Yep. So if I swap these front and back edges, I'll get the red solved, and then I can do a swap of these two front ones. R2U2, R2U2, R2. And there we go. Now we just have to swap these two guys. R2U, R2U, R2U2, R2U2, R2U, R2, come on. R2U prime, R2. Okay, done. So not too bad, right? Basically, it's a 3x3x2 with an extra reduction step, so not too bad. The puzzle, however, as you can see, is a nightmare. That pop was actually pretty scary. I've not had one of those before, and I kind of felt like I needed to hold everything together with my hand, or it was all going to fly apart. The puzzle is just super wobbly. Everything catches on everything. Every turn of these squished layers here on the side is just a nightmare. It feels like the puzzle is going to just ping across the room. So I really don't recommend spending $18.99 on this like I did. I'm kind of, it's nice to have a 4x4x2 in the collection, but I really want to investigate. I'd actually pay, a premium to get like a 3D printed one of these, for example, or a hand modded one if they were available, because I would like to have one that I actually enjoy solving, because the actual solve is fun. As I've said in other videos, I do love reduction in puzzle solving. So, this would theoretically be an ideal puzzle for me to just kind of casually solve while I'm sitting around. But unfortunately, I barely touch this thing because it's not enjoyable to use. Anyway, that's the WitEden 4x4x2. And now we're going to step up to the 4x4x3. Once again, I have pre-scrabbled it, so we're ready to go right off the bat here. Now, this puzzle is going to be such a relief after the WitEden monstrosity. It's still, certainly not a speed cube. It has its problems, a little bit catchy, but it turns really nicely on all axes. There's not really any fear of anything popping. I haven't had to adjust it. So I really like this puzzle. So I do recommend this one, although it is a bit expensive. I will say that, but I found it worth it. It's really enjoyable to solve. So when we're looking at this, what do we need to do? Well, it's basically the same idea as what we did with the 4x4x2, but now we have a middle layer to deal with, and that actually adds a couple of significant steps. So first of all, after I solve the top and bottom centers, I will solve the side centers, okay? Then I'm going to do the edge pairing again. Then what we need to do is fix this middle layer. So what's going to happen is we'll have these centers solved and in the right place, but these middle corner, or edge pieces rather, will be out of position. So we'll just need to make sure those are in place. Then we solve the top and bottom layer as a 3x3x2. However, we always make sure to solve from the same orientation throughout, because this one R face will get disrupted. And if we keep sort of turning the puzzle around, we're going to disrupt all the sides, and we'll have to go back a couple of steps. But you'll see what I mean as we get into it. But basically, it's just a nice little step up from the 4x4x2, and I really enjoy this solve. It's a lot of fun. So we'll start with the yellow and white centers. Done. All right, so now we will go to the side centers, once again bearing in mind the color scheme. So white on the left, we want to have orange, blue, red, and green, like that. So we'll get orange here. This is fairly easy to do. if you're used to solving with commutators and stuff like that on a 4x4, for example. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that these two oranges are on the same slice. Then I'm going to bring that slice over, rotate the orange to the other side, and then bring that slice back. And I've just basically pushed that orange out, flopped the other one in as its neighbor, and then brought the orange back in. So now we do the same for the blue and the green. So we have orange here, and blue should be here. So these are conveniently already in the same slice. So once again, I'll bring it over, swap that to the other side, and bring the slice back. And now we've got our side centers done, and all in the correct color order, which is great. And now it's time for the edge pairing. So we'll look around first and see if we have any solved. It looks like we just have one solved, which is this red and white edge pair here, so that's fine. We've got a blue and white here and a blue and white here. So I'm going to use once again the standard technique I showed you. So white on the bottom, one half of the edge pair on the bottom front, the other half on the back, or the top rear rather. So we're shooting for blue and white. I'll bring that blue and white in. Got a nice pair here, and I will bump that out to the side like so, and then put the white back on the bottom. And actually that got us another pair, which is convenient. So I'll put that in the side as well. And yeah, so we just need to get one more pair down here done. So what do we have? We've got orange and yellow here and here. So put that in the back, bring it to the front, bump that into the side, and what do we got? Yep, that's fine. Okay, and now we should be in the same position that I showed you before. We've got one solved edge pair and three unsolved ones. So first we'll decide which ones we want to solve. I would say we'll go for green and white. Or no, we'll go yellow and red. That's down here. Then I shall pop the unneeded pair out and replace it with a solved one. And yeah, okay. Just got confused there for a moment. And we will bring the red to the bottom front to make a pair. Bring the unsolved pair out to replace it. Replace the white, and we're all solved again. So now here we are where we have another additional step. So as you can see, we've got all our centers done on all the different sides of the puzzle. All our edges are done, but the corners in the middle are all messed up. But that's okay. So for example, you'll see how easy it is to bring these into position. Basically, if we just have this red and green over here, then we're solved. So let's just do that, like so. Then we need green and orange over here to match that slot. So move that over, and now you see we've got this whole side here is done, but it's just flipped over. So if I do that, now our middle layer is completely solved, which is fine. So all I did there was completely just intuitive. You only ever just need to do R2s with just to swap the corners around. If you just keep moving them around the different slots on the middle layer, you'll get there eventually, whether you want to or not. It's not too difficult to deal with. Okay, so now we need to do step one of the 3x3x2 solve, and we're going to solve the top and bottom layers as a 3x3x2 and just do what we can to not disrupt that middle layer. Okay, that's the only thing we need to remember. Okay, so looks like all of our needed white edges are on the top, which is okay. So I'm going to flip that over, bring the blue in here, and then rotate it down. And you can see by doing it that way, I basically avoided, like if I had just had the blue and white here and rotated it in, then this side would have been disrupted. But because of the way that I did it, by bringing the edge up first, sliding the blue in, and then bringing it down, that just avoids that disruption. So a little tip there. I'm going to do the same again here, actually. So I'll move this out of the way. It actually needs to be here. But I'm going to rotate that side first, bring the orange in, and then down. And you can see I've avoided the disruption again. So now we need the red over here. Just flip that in like so. And then once again with the green. Okay, so now we have our white cross on the bottom, everything looking all nice and lined up. We have one corner, actually two corners solved, so that's helpful. Okay, so we have a green and orange slot which can be filled by this piece. So we're once again using the 3x3x2 techniques. So R2U, R2U prime, R2. Now that's been disrupted, but we'll just leave that till the end as per usual with the 3x3x4, for example. And without rotating the puzzle, but just the bottom layer, we will place this corner where it needs to be down here. R2U, R2U prime, R2. There we go. 2 layers solved, 1 to go. And unfortunately, once again, we do not have headlights, but we will use our algorithm to generate them and then do the same algorithm again to solve all of our corners on the top. So R2U, R2U prime, R2U prime, D, R2U prime, RU, R. There we go. Now we have blue headlights on the right. Bring those to the left and do the algorithm again. R2U, R2U prime, R2U prime, D, R2U prime, R2U, R2. Okay. Now we just need to get these edges done. We have 3 edges out. So let's see what we got. We can just flop the orange across to here by doing R2U2, R2U2, R2U2. Now we just have to swap these 2 edges, which we will do with R2U, R2U, R2U2, R2U2, R2U, R2U prime, R2, and we're done. Look at that. We were actually lucky because we didn't get parity, which is fortunate. Sometimes what happens is you will end up with this bit here, which is not correct because these edges are in the wrong place. And in fact, let me pause for a moment and I'll see if I can set that up for you. Okay, we're back. So I've set up the parity situation I was talking about. So sometimes you finish your last layer, which would be here, and you end up with just this middle chunk here that needs to be flipped. Okay. Now, if you try to do the standard parity algorithm from the 3x3x4, for example, from this orientation, you're going to find things go a bit crazy and it doesn't do what you expect. So what you need to do is actually get this parity to appear on this side of the puzzle. And all you actually need to do is put the mismatched edges on the top front and back front. So you're holding the puzzle like this with the 4x4 sides facing outward. Okay. Then we're going to do the edge exchanging algorithm that we used to solve the last layer when we have 2 edges we want to flop across the top of the puzzle. So we do R2, U2, R2, U2, R2, U2. And you can see now that is in the correct position, but the parity is now appearing on this side of the puzzle. Now we can do the standard parity algorithm that we use for the 3x3x-ns. Okay, and just so you remember, that is top 2 layers U2, R2, F2, top 2 layers U2, top layer U2, F2, R2, and top 2 layers U2, and we're done. Beautiful. So there is a little bit of extra stuff to do on this puzzle compared to the 4x4x2, and I think that's why I enjoy this solve more, even discounting the fact that this puzzle is just a nightmare to manipulate in any sense. But I like the extra reduction task with the side centers. The parity has this little extra wrinkle where you kind of need to move it around the puzzle so you can solve it in a sensible way. But as you can see with the other cuboids, basically with just a couple of algorithms derived from the 3x3x2, we can just keep on trucking through most of these puzzles. And in fact, you can discover that if you know the techniques behind the standard n×n cubes, 3x3, the 4x4, and apply those same basic high-level principles to the cuboids, armed with those couple of cuboid algorithms, then you'll pretty much be able to solve most of the puzzle I'm going to show you, probably without my intervention. However, we're soon getting towards puzzles that are substantially different in that they do have a lot of extra steps that are not necessarily intuitively obvious. And so we're going to move up to the 4x4x5 after this, and you will see that there's quite a lot going on in that puzzle, and it's not quite so straightforward as these guys. The 4x4x6 as well adds shapeshifting into the mix, which is a whole other kettle of fish. So that's one of the things I love about cuboids, is you can kind of apply the things that you know and get pretty far, but then they throw you these curveballs that you have to adjust and learn some new aspects of the puzzle. And I like that. I like when you have something that you think you understand, but it turns out you don't. And cuboids are great for that. So once again, I would recommend that you get the 4x4x3. Do not buy this one unless you're really desperate to have all the 4x4x-ns you can get hold of that are mass produced. I think probably, Trifum or one of these kind of guys who make hand-modded puzzles will make a 4x4x2 for you. It'll be substantially more expensive, but probably a lot more fun to play with. And I'm going to look into that myself, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, next up is the 4x4x5. That's going to be a little bit more of a complex job. So hopefully I'll be able to guide you through it. If you do find that you're having trouble with any of my tutorials, just let me know. I can try and revisit some stuff or answer any specific questions you may have. I've tried to cover everything that you really need to know. You shouldn't really encounter any situations on the puzzle that you can't solve with just these simple tools. But once we get to the more complex ones, that situation may change, of course. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you do have a 4x4x3, how you get on with it. And if you are into cuboids, as I have become over the last little while, and you have any recommendations, please do let me know in the comments. I'm always looking to expand my cuboid collection. I did notice that there's some interesting new Fisher cuboids on the HK Now Store site, so I've got my eye on those. So hopefully in a few months' time, I'll be able to show you some Fisher cuboid solves as well. Okay, so until the next video, everybody take care, stay healthy. I know it's getting a bit crazy out there, particularly if you're in the US with the pandemic, so do take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.